Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for coming today. Really appreciate it. Today, I've got a treat in store for you. Lots of really good information. Did you know? Let's start off with a stat. How about, did you know that over 500,000 Canadians are living with Alzheimer's disease or another form of dementia? As our population ages, this number is nearly going to double by 2030, which is astounding and a bit scary, I have to tell you. Today I have with me Karen Tyrell, and she is a Canadian dementia consultant and educator. She is the owner and founder of Personalized Dementia Solutions Incorporated and offers dementia education to staff and families, as well as support for families and caregivers and on dementia journey. She is also the author of Cracking the Dementia Code and its creative solutions to cope with the changed behaviors, as well as therapeutic coloring and activity books for older adults. And she is the co-creator of an app that offers solutions when dealing with those who have dementia and Alzheimer's, all of which can be found on her website, dementiasolutions.ca. Welcome, Karen. Thanks so much for coming today. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy. Hello, everyone.
So I thought today we would do a bit of a Q&A for Karen, so that we can find out a lot of information about dementia and Alzheimer's and get you folks some solid, concrete information on your journey. So Karen, you've been in this industry since 1995. What got you into it?
Well, I knew that I wanted to be in the helping field. And at the time, I wasn't sure if it was working with children or working with older adults, working in the hospital. I didn't really know. But then it hit me. It hit me one day that I knew I wanted to be working with older adults. And then my path just sent me towards working with older adults in the field of therapeutic recreation. And when I was in the school, taking this program, I realized it was dementia care. It had to be dementia care as my focus. So right from the get-go, from 1995 onward, I have been focused on helping those that have dementia as well as their families. And I can't shake it. I just love what I do. I'm very passionate about it.
Amazing. And like I said with the stat at the first, there's more and more need for education and professionals around this topic. I know that we've seen in the housing situations here in Ottawa, we've seen a large increase in folks needing some sort of cognitive support, maybe memory care, living, or even just extra cognitive support. So definitely, like I said, super happy to have you here. Could you maybe take a minute to define the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's for those that are watching today?
Absolutely. I say this all the time because it is confusing. And know that I like to blame the problems of people having a difficult time understanding this on the media, because a lot of their headlines are incorrect. As well, it's interesting how all the different Alzheimer's societies around the world all have a different definition for dementia. So it is very confusing. So when I usually do my talks, I ask the audience, is dementia a disease? And it's interesting how I get different responses of yes and strong no's and, and the looks of don't look at me. I don't know. So what I want to share with you is the definition by the World Health Organization that I've been using for many, many years, is that dementia is not a disease in itself. Dementia is known as a syndrome. And a syndrome is basically a group of symptoms. When they come together, they form a syndrome. Just like a common cold, Amy, and I think we talked about, this is the cold season. When we get a common cold, it's not a disease. We get symptoms like runny nose, sore throat, headache, maybe coughing and sneezing, those types of things. And then we go, great, I have a cold. But in the case of dementia, dementia is also a syndrome where it has common symptoms that come together that we will see. And those common symptoms would be poor memory. This is, well known. A lot of people start realizing, grandma's starting to show forgetfulness because she's asking the same question over and over. The other common symptom is thinking impairments, where there's challenges to think through how to problem solve or think through how to maybe get from point A to point B where they're used to going to the mall, and it's like learning how to drive to get there. Thinking impairment could also be things like making, a meal, what ingredients go where and when to put the toast in after, for breakfast and those types of things. Lots of examples for thinking impairment, but the other common symptom I want to share is poor judgment. And this is some examples of having difficulties with making good, safe decisions, whether it's the clothing for the day, which is a common one. We see people wearing inappropriate clothing for, cold or hot days, but also maybe trying to reach for something high when they pull their walker to stand on that has wheels, or a chair that has wheels, and it's not safe. So making just inappropriate decisions for things. But also, we have seen people have poor judgment in the sense of saying things that are kind of inappropriate in public. And so not having that filter. People talk about the filter, just saying whatever's on their mind, but it may hurt somebody else and they don't even realize it. The other common symptom I want to share is communication difficulties. It can happen for a lot of people, maybe in earlier stages. For some, it may come a little later, but we may see the communication challenges where they can't get a full sentence out, or they're misusing a word that doesn't make sense for the word that they're trying to talk about. Like maybe the cell phone, they may call it the converter and not the actual cell phone. There's so many challenges around communication, because even people try to give them instructions and ask them to do something, but the person may look at them like, I don't know what you just said. So they try to talk louder, but it's not necessarily the hearing that's the problem. It's the communication. And then the last symptom, quickly, I just want to share that we really do see, and it's really hard for families to watch this, is a change in their personality, where they used to be maybe so sweet and, hi dear, how are you? It's nice to see you. How are the kids? And now you come to visit. Why are you here? I don't need you here. What do you want? So that's just an example. I do have the opposites. I've had family members tell me him and his dad never got along ever before. And then when his dementia started, it seems like they were better friends. And so the personality can really change. So when those symptoms come together and we see a person on a regular basis, because mind you, there's days we have poor thinking, poor memory, poor judgment, we have our moments. But when we see it consistently happening to a person on a regular basis, a clinician, a doctor would say, okay, we're dealing with dementia. But the next question, I believe, is very important. And that question is, what is causing dementia? What is causing this person to have those symptoms of dementia? And the reason I say that is because there are conditions out there that are not a progressive disease like Alzheimer's disease that can be present, and that can be treated. And the conditions I'm talking about are things like low B12, thyroid conditions. It could be delirium, and that's a whole other topic because UTIs, urinary tract infections, pain, dehydration, all these things can also bring on the symptoms of dementia, but are treatable. But also depression. People don't realize when a person is in a depressive state for quite some time, they can start to show all those symptoms of dementia. But when we treat the depression, the symptoms of dementia can also go away. And so it's important to really get a good diagnosis, I believe, to know what we're dealing with. So if we can treat it, let's treat it. That would be the first step.
Absolutely. And, we also see elevated symptoms when people are in hospital, right? Like things kind of can go pretty crazy in hospital, not to mention what you said about the hallucinations and the UTIs and things like that, which before I got into this industry, I had no idea how much a urinary tract infection could affect people. It was pretty scary. But we also deal with a lot of people in hospital, and their family members are trying to figure out what's going to be the new normal, the new baseline, but hospital just messes people up a lot more. And then the other thing we find as well is when people are making a move to retirement living, for instance, if they have to move a long way, the move in general will mess things up. But if they have to move between different communities or move cities and all that, all of these things contribute. And it's a pretty wild ride for families, I have to say.
Absolutely. And that's that term also, hospital delirium, because it's very common that people will show symptoms of dementia, but it's delirium showing up in the hospital, but also moving people out of their familiar environment can really mess them up.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not getting their sleep, maybe they're not getting the right nutrition, maybe they're more stressed, and all of this can contribute.
Yeah, absolutely. Karen, what do you suggest for someone who is concerned about themselves or a loved one having the symptoms of dementia?
Well, first off, like I said, let's get a diagnosis. Let's see what we're dealing with. Because if we can treat it, let's treat it. Also, if we do get a diagnosis of something that is non-curable at this time, such as Alzheimer's disease, um, there are many types of dementia that are non-curable that it's helpful to know, such as Lewy body dementia. I don't know if anybody here is dealing with Lewy body dementia, but how we support somebody with Lewy body is very different than how we support somebody with a vascular dementia. So there's different ways to support people. So that's why I feel, some people think, well, grandma's so old, what's the point of getting a good diagnosis? But sometimes it may be more beneficial for them and for you as the family caregiver or everyone around them as caregivers to know what we're dealing with so we can implement the right strategies or the right medications in order to make things a little bit more enjoyable in this time of the dementia journey.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you mentioned earlier too about with the move, right? With sometimes their meals or meds or sleep or something's off as well. But it's amazing how, if meals are off, for instance, like the nutrition factor as well, like all of these things, it's just, like I said before, it's a wild ride. And I don't know, lots of people are very similar in some of the symptoms and what's happening, but no one's the same, which is also
Right.
super wild, right? Because it's not like I broke a leg and this is what we do. It's all over the place, which is very scary for families.
That's why my company is called Personalized Dementia Solutions, although you just see Dementia Solutions, but it's just a longer word, but it has to be personalized.
Yeah.
And every situation that you go through, it's also personalizing it, but also getting creative and teaching families to wear that creative hat when it's time to implement some changes into their world. And there's going to be so many ups and downs. So advice to give families, it's such a big question because it will have to, depend on their situation, the personality of the person they're caring for. Because another big thing that I notice as a dementia consultant, a lot of the families that reach out to me are the ones that are struggling with a loved one who's affected by anosognosia.
Tell me
And I know it's a
more.
big term.
Tell me more because I hadn't heard this term before you and I really started talking, right? And it's not something that's really well known.
Well, for those in the professional world, you may have taken some training where you learned the 7 A's of dementia. And one of the 7 A's of dementia is anosognosia. And I always kind of ignored that word. Oh, whatever, it's a big word. I can't, pay attention years and years ago. But then as I got into this role, I realized majority of my clients are struggling with somebody who has this. And it's a condition that happens to about 80% of people that have a dementia. And what it is no awareness that they have an illness. So as much as you say, Mom, you have dementia, the doctor said you had Alzheimer's disease, they may look at you and say, you're wrong. That doctor's wrong. There's no way. I am fine. And there's a lot of push and pull about, I can still drive. I don't need help. I don't need home support. You're crazy. I don't need to go into a care home. You're the one with the problem, is what happens to the families. They get blamed for being the crazy one when they think there's nothing wrong with them. But the fact is, there is something wrong. So if they are affected by anosognosia, then the families have to get really creative because we can't force them to believe it. There's no way we can't force them because even if we show the paper, they'll probably rip it up. And there's just no convincing that individual. So we do have to get creative. And I coach families on what we can say and what we can do to get through that scenario when it happens.
Absolutely. Well, so can you give us maybe an example of how you would work with families? I think that might be a really good idea of what we're talking about now. I can't even say it. Tell me again. Say it.
Ano,
Ano?
zog, ano, zog,
Yep.
no, zia.
Anosognosia. Ooh, it's a tongue twister. So, I mean,
Yeah.
case in point, we have clients that one needs to go, for instance, to a residence, and the other one has cognitive decline and is literally refusing, and the family's looking to us. We're housing professionals. We're not dementia professionals necessarily. We definitely have information and different training, but how would we help a family like that, or how would you help a family? Like if we said, hey Karen, can you talk to this family, what are some things we could do to help them?
Well, let me give you maybe an example. So the person who thinks they can still drive, what I would coach a family, first I would have to obviously get to know them and what motivates that person. Will they listen? Their doctor told them to do this, or do they think their doctor is, not somebody to be respected? Because then we can't use it. But if they think their eldest son, they really think the eldest son is like the god of their world, so then we need to pull these people in
Yeah.
to help the situations and using what I call therapeutic reasoning. Okay,
Okay.
so this is something I trademarked because many of you know if you're caring for somebody, it's so hard to reason with an individual who has poor memory, poor thinking, and poor judgment. So, how are we going to be able to reason with them, especially if they have anosognosia? Therefore, we need to use what I call again therapeutic reasoning because reasoning with someone in a way that will provide a benefit is going to help everyone. And anything that's therapeutic is beneficial. So let's use therapeutic reasoning. So, what I might say is, I know you're a good driver, Mom. Yes, you are amazing, even though they had so many accidents in the last 2 months, but their license just got taken away. I would use therapeutic reasoning to say, I know you're amazing, Mom, and I'm so sorry this happened. But why don't we just, for today, I'll drive, and maybe next week we'll talk to the doctor again. We'll have a retest and we'll see what we can do. But again, it depends on their memory, their quality of their memory. Will they remember that you said that? Because some people, as soon as you say we're going to look into it, or we'll look at it tomorrow, or I'll drive today, you drive tomorrow. But of course, when tomorrow comes, once again, drive today, you can drive tomorrow. So sometimes it just makes them feel as if they're not incompetent, and that may relieve some of that combativeness or keep the harmony is what my number one goal is for families. We need to keep the harmony. We've got to find ways to do that, and we have to get creative.
Absolutely, and it's really difficult on those family members too because a lot of them don't have this knowledge and they're piecing it together as they go, and it can be very frustrating. And so yeah, it's been difficult for many families, but that's a really good starter for a lot of people because even with what we do, we can also give that type of advice and try to lead them down a path, hopefully that would help, and then
Yeah.
kind of add things on as we go, right? You just never know how people are going to react, and then you have to shift and then decide, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it's getting to know that person and then using the strategies that's personalized to them. But for a lot of families that I've met who have already been on the journey for a long time and they come desperate, like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Some of them have been using the right techniques, but hearing it from me, they're like, so I have been doing it right? It's like, yeah, you've been doing it right. And so getting that validation, families are like, oh my gosh, it feels so good. But now going forward, what do I say? What do I do? Because I'm confused. I need that guidance. And when I can help relieve that for the families and tweak maybe what they're doing with just a little, what about doing this instead? Or doing this first? Or don't tell them the day of where you're, don't tell them weeks in advance of the appointment because they're going to fret and they're not going to sleep and they're going to ask you to every minute, when are we going? When are we going? Wait till the last minute and say, oh my gosh, look what just came up on my calendar. I completely forgot. I'm so sorry, Mom. We got to go to this appointment right now.
Mm-hmm.
As they're in the car, maybe going to Tim Hortons for a coffee. But oh my goodness, Mom, I just realized we have to take a detour. So we've got them in the car. We've got them ready
Yeah.
to go to the appointment that they're always canceling because they don't think they need to go to their doctors.
Yeah.
Sometimes these techniques might work for some people.
Yeah.
Not others, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of people that if they know it's a specialist appointment, they they will not go. So definitely seen a lot of that. When do people start seeking out this extra support? So people are kind of muddling along, right? And they're trying to put the pieces together. Again, like, we deal with lots of clients. One of them said to me, we assume that she has cognitive decline. We assume that she has some sort of dementia, but there's been nothing diagnosed. We don't know what to do. When do they seek out professionals like yourself to really kind of help in that scenario?
Well, ideally, I would love for families to reach out sooner because those people who reach out sooner come back and say, I was just so glad you were there, or anybody else in their world that were supporting them were there when they needed it. Because what happens when a crisis happens, now they're scrambling. And what do I do? Where do I go? And it's very stressful for a lot of people. So, my hope, if I can back up, I would say find that support sooner so that they're there for you. Because then what can happen when they're scrambling and they're stressed and then they get the help and then they realize, oh my gosh, I should have done this sooner. And then it
Always.
breaks my heart. Like, oh, I could have done this sooner. Or I meet families who are already on the dementia journey for years, and then they come to a presentation I've given and they say to me, my grandma passed away already, but oh my goodness, my family would have benefited from hearing and knowing this on the journey. And I'm so sad we didn't know this. And we kept fighting with her and trying to convince her that she can't do this and she has to get help in a care home. But if they have an anosognosia, you can't say you need help.
Yeah, that's really sad too. I find like a lot of our medical system is reactive, right? And so people's mentality around this type of thing tends to be not as proactive as us as professionals, like either, with yourself with dementia solutions or even with housing with us. Everybody is, not being, I guess, not everybody, but there's a lot of people that are not nearly as proactive, and it comes up with us too. And oh, I wish we would do this before because we would have made different decisions, right? But then the other possible, reasoning is that the like folks that are independents like ourselves and smaller companies and whatnot are harder to find sometimes, right? And it's the blending of the public and private systems to get people the help they need.
Well, for sure. And so I've been in the nonprofit world years before. I was an executive director for an Alzheimer's society before I moved to BC. So I was in Ontario for Ontario folks. I was in Brockville, Ontario. And then I moved to BC in 2009. And that's when I saw a lot of gaps in our healthcare system here in BC that really bothered me. And I really felt families needed a place to turn when they needed it. Even with my role at the Alzheimer's Society, I was saddened when I got the phone calls on Monday morning to check the messages over the weekend of the families. What do I do? What do I say? How do I help my husband? And it was sad for me that they didn't get the help when they needed it. So I
Mm-hmm.
decided to break free and I thought I will help the families when they need it. I am not Monday to Friday, 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I don't believe in that. And
Yeah.
help families evenings, weekends when they needed it. And or they're texting me as my clients, do you have time today? And then sometimes I'll squeeze it in while I'm driving
Yeah.
and give them the answers they need so they can move forward and not feel trapped and have to wait for their doctor's appointment for 2 weeks to get an answer of what to do. And I don't believe in that. So, yes, there's a challenge between the nonprofit private industry, and sometimes the private industry does put a bad, taint to the names of people who are small business, who are private, but they're small business trying to make a difference. And I see so many, even like the driving Miss Daisies many years ago, they were private business. And unfortunately, people thought, private business, evil,
Yeah.
you're gouging or taking money from people. But there was no other service at that time, and they were filling a gap. And they didn't live in mansions. They were just getting by, paying their groceries
Yeah.
and gas bills, but they were trying to make a difference in this world. So I really am hoping that the difference, the negativity around private and not for profit, people would realize even not for profits make mistakes and they're not using the dollars that they were given in a wise way. There's not no one's perfect, but just to not shut out a
Mm-hmm.
private industry like a home care company who is going to augment more services for that family to get respite, whereas the government service can only offer so much and they have to cap it for the families. But if the government doesn't tell the families about the for-profit home care companies, they're going to struggle. And that to
Mm-hmm.
me is not ideal. The family should make their own choice on the for-profit businesses they want to work with.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We're in the same situation, you know. And the other thing about governmental service, they're great, but there's also the fact that you have to apply and be, you know, accepted into
Huge
these
challenge.
services, right? Which is a whole other challenge if people don't quite hit the mark. Whereas in private business, for home care, like you said, they could just hire a PSW for what they need and get things taken care of, right? That's all the reactive and not proactive of some of the systems, which is frustrating.
However, there are, there's so many challenges with this, and we can't solve the,
Not
the
all of them.
healthcare system. But finances is a concern. But my hope is that we see the system as a big circle, and everybody comes with their specialties, whether they're the doctor, the geriatric doctor, specialist, or they're the maintenance person at the care home, the care aides, the recreation. Everybody to me is in around the circle. I don't like to see it as a pecking order
Yeah.
of who's better than any other. We're all here to help the people in the middle. In my world, it's people affected by dementia and their families.
Absolutely. Karen, can you talk about things people can do to keep, like to delay dementia or prevent dementia from happening? Is there any things that, you know, people can start doing now?
Okay, so I did a talk yesterday. I do this talk a lot, and it's called How to Maintain a Healthy Brain. And I only started this because I had to look it up, do my own research on what can we do, because I was getting so many families. How do I not get this what my mom has? Or, Karen, what can I do? Because I'm worried it's going to happen to my family. And I get those concerns. So what I do is I pull from so I've been doing this for many, many years, but in 2019, there was an article that came out from the World Health Organization on ways that we can reduce our risk of dementia. And I'll just quickly run through them for people, but there was more that was not added in that report that I do educate on. So just quickly, number one is exercise, and there's lots of benefits, and I won't go into details, but we can build new neurons in our hippocampus if we can exercise on a regular basis. So exercise will help, but also avoid smoking. That's another concern. Even there's some risks to long-term cannabis use that studies are coming out that can shrink our hippocampus due to smoking. So eating right is also important. Making sure we're getting the nutrition that we need. So even hydration, because it can cause delirium if we're not hydrated enough. But antioxidants, we want to have all these types of positive nutrients in our body. Also controlling our weight is important, because if we're on the obese side, we do put ourselves at more risk, because maybe we're not exercising as much, maybe we're not eating as healthy, but also we put ourselves at risk for type 2 diabetes, which has a correlation between dementia. So just letting people know that, talking to your doctor of all these ideas of what will work for you, controlling weight, but also eating a Mediterranean diet. I just want to add that in there when eating right, because a recent study last year came out, even people who are likely predestined to get dementia in their family, like Alzheimer's disease, even if they have that gene that they carry, the chromosome, the studies are showing that it could reduce your risk by a quarter if we are eating a Mediterranean diet. So maybe you can look up Mediterranean diet to see, because that could even reduce your risk that way if it's in the family. But the last thing the World Health Organization talks about is maintaining your numbers. What we mean by that is your numbers of cholesterol, blood pressure, because high blood pressure can cause stroke, mini strokes, which also leads to dementia, as well as the third one is your blood sugar, because again, diabetes. So maintaining those numbers will help reduce your risk to put you in a serious risk situation. So those are the top few from the World Health Organization's report from 2019. But there's more that I noticed and I'm reading about, and that is getting your sleep. Very, very important. We've come to realize that when we sleep, people, if you understand Alzheimer's disease, if you've done your research on it, you realize there's an abundance of plaque in the brain, as well as tangles. But the plaque can be removed and cleaned at night when we're sleeping, but we have to be in deep sleep for the microglia to come out, and little scavengers come and clean our plaque. So, but if you're not sleeping deeply, you're not getting the cleaning happening. So find ways to get sleep. Also, staying social. We want to stay social because we saw what happened with COVID. Because if we're isolated, we're not social, we can get depressed, and depression can lead to dementia, as I mentioned earlier in the talk. So stay social, but also a few other things. Make sure you're getting your hearing tested, because there is correlation between people with hearing loss of higher than 25 decibels compared to those that are also developing dementia. So they're not sure which comes first. Is it the hearing loss or the dementia? So if we can work on getting ourselves hearing and going out in public and listening to our friends and family, as opposed to staying away because we think we're bothering them by saying what. So, but getting maybe hearing ideas or options for you to hear better. But we also need to exercise the brain. And I do talk about the different regions of the brain that we should be exercising. Some people say they do crosswords every day. And I think that's great, because they say, oh, you only need about 5 minutes of a cognitive type of exercise for lasting improvements and results. However, if you're only doing the one region of the brain, which would be in that case word skills, then you're not exercising the other regions, and then you put yourself at risk. So it's keeping all the 5 regions exercised is also very helpful. I think I got them all. And protect your head. Protect your head, because concussions can happen, and there is a type of dementia called CTE, which stands for chronic traumatic encephalopathy. And we saw this through football players, boxers, in the past, if they weren't wearing helmets and they had several concussions, it could lead to dementia later in life. So as what we are just telling people nowadays, do what we can to protect your head. Wear seatbelts, use your walking aids if you've been, prescribed because you're a little unsteady, helmets, do what you can not to go on slippery days to have a potential fall, those types of things. Yeah.
Wow, that was a lot of great advice, Gary. No, it's great. I hope everybody was able to take some pieces out of there. I think what I'd like to do now, Karen, is I'm going to ask anybody who has questions, put them in the chat, and I can bring them up to Karen. In the meantime, Karen, can you tell us how to get in touch with you so that anyone that's on the call today can get some extra information for themselves or for their loved one?
So you can go to my website, dementiasolutions.ca. Now, I've just rambled through the ways to maintain a healthy brain. I do have a handout. If anybody is interested and you want to reach out and ask for that handout, like I said, I have it all queued up because I had done the talk yesterday.
Thanks.
I can email you an electronic copy of it that has a little overview of the 5 symptoms of dementia on that handout, but it also has all those things I listed. And then it just reminds you of, maybe you can write down 5 things that you want to take action on for you that you heard, and you're like, wow, you know what, I really should work on that. And it might motivate you to take some action for your own brain health. So that is a handout I'm more than happy to share with you. If you want to email us, info@dementiasolutions.ca. So just info, and then my website, dementiasolutions.ca. So I'm happy to help out. Also, if anybody is interested in a 20-minute free consultation with me or my team as dementia care advisors, you're welcome to sign up on our website as well, where we just listen to your story, see if we can even be a fit. Maybe we can just give you quick ideas within that 20 minutes, or if you do need more ongoing support, then we're a resource for you.
Wonderful. Thanks for that.
I've got lots of education too.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I think it's so important. We have a lot of education on teaandtoast.ca as well. That is just, I think people just need the extra, right? And whatever, whatever your team can put out, whatever our team can put out, just to give people the information. Take it, please. Download it all, right? Because we just want the best for the families, right?
So we are working on a family membership coming soon. So it's going to be a place where lots of information, education, videos of me explaining my book, Cracking the Dementia Code, if people can't read it. But also I do these dementia solutions sessions where people can come in and ask quick questions.
Okay.
Get on their way, but it's a group, so others might be hearing you if you don't want the one-on-one support. So we're looking at doing that, but I also do support groups on Zoom. So you'll be able to learn about those that are new coming up.
Amazing. You're a wealth of knowledge. We have a bunch of questions that came in. So I guess I'll read them to you, and then that'll make your life a bit easier on the other side. Why do you say dementia syndrome but Alzheimer's disease?
So according to the World Health Organization, dementia is a syndrome. It's just and a syndrome is a group of symptoms. Those symptoms are found inside Alzheimer's disease. There's other symptoms with Alzheimer's disease, but the syndrome of dementia are also found within Alzheimer's disease. And the disease is a process. Like, it does have a starting point where it starts in the hippocampus and it slowly deteriorates all through the brain and has a little bit of a pattern that it goes through, which we could say, okay, it looks like we're in middle stages now. Oh, now we're in final or end of life stages. So there is a process. So there are many types of conditions or diseases that have the syndrome of dementia in it.
Okay.
And it's just a group of symptoms.
Okay.
I hope that helps, Lisa.
What's the best support for someone who has been diagnosed with early onset?
So when you say early onset, there's some clarity there, because some people have young onset where they're under the age of 65. Some people are what we call early onset. It doesn't matter what age, like usually over the age of 65. So if they're just newly diagnosed, no matter what age, again, what I would say is get that support, talk to the doctors, find out if there are any, medical ways to slow the process that would work for you. But getting that group of people, because sometimes it's been sad. People come to my support groups and they say they lose their friends because their friends don't know what to do or what to say, but they tend to start collecting new friends who understand, and they feel more comfortable with those new friends. Either that's a spouse or mom or dad that has dementia, and they work with those other people and chat about it. So for me, actually, maybe right now, Kristen, I'll share with you, with everyone, my top 3 survival tips. Perfect. Now, these are for anybody in whatever stage, but they work for everyone. So number 1, definitely you need breaks. So you can't be go, go, go as a caregiver in the earlier stages, even, when you're just starting to learn everything. You're going to need time off for you. So I call it me time. You're going to need that in order to survive. So making sure you're taking those breaks, no matter what stage you're in, whether it's 2 minutes in the bathroom by yourself, shut the door, deep breathing, or 20 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days, it doesn't matter. You're going to need time off to survive. Number 2, talking it out. So as I was mentioning, Amy, we got to bring in those supports of people who get it, whether it is peers in the industry, whether it is professionals, whether it is a dementia consultant, whether it is a clergy, or maybe some people will go to a counselor, but a counselor may not fully understand dementia and the ways we support somebody with dementia, but still talk it out. Some people will write it out, but I really think talking it out is more important. But if all you can do is write it out, that's okay. Because I also have had people write to me, and then as soon as they write the whole email, blah, 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 by the end they say, you know what, I'm starting to feel better. Thank you for listening. Send. I feel good. So I whatever way to get it out, that's my second survival tip. And the third one is never stop learning. There's going to always be something to learn in every stage that you're in, every type of dementia we're going through. There's, support services. Learn, keep learning, never stop. And then I think people will have a better chance at surviving. Of my 27 years in this industry, those are my top 3.
Perfect. Okay, great information. What are the other areas of the brain besides word skills, and what do you recommend to do the exercises for this area, these other areas?
Okay, so we do want to exercise our memory. I just didn't know how much time I had because I can talk. You want to exercise the memory region of your brain. So such as, for some people, asking each other 5 words and seeing if you can recall them later, or using cards. I like to get pairs and then flip one over. Oh, there's a 2.
Like memory games?
Oh, it's a 10. Yeah, the memory game.
Okay.
And then you have to go back and you go, oh, there's the 2. Where was the 2?
Right.
That's really good to strengthen your short-term memory. So things like that, or long-term memory. Look at old photographs. If people do have old photographs that are in an album somewhere, when was that? and who was that? And where was I? That kind of thing, to kind of work on your long-term memory region. So memory, word skills, reading out loud, by the way, if people are worried about themselves with dementia, reading out loud, because aphasia can happen, and it does keep all the region of the brain and the communication working stronger when you're talking and reading out loud. But reading to yourself is fine. Scrabble with friends would be better. I have a new bananagrams game that's kind of fun. Anything to do with words, there's a variety of different activities. Now, the other one is coordination skills. So that's a part of your brain that we want to keep strong. So keep coordination going. So some people try to stand on one foot for a few moments and then do the other foot. Yoga poses are amazing. So that's great for coordination. I learned to juggle as eye-hand coordination, and that was a challenge, but I really strengthened that into my brain. There's a variety of different things. There's a game called Bop It. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it, where you have to twist and pull and bop, and you really have to go fast, and it's using your coordination skills to go as quickly as you can.
Okay.
So it strengthens that. And of course, any exercise would be good for coordination skills. And then the other region of the brain is the critical thinking. Sometimes when people retire, they don't use their critical thinking as much, and that can weaken it. And that's things like any game, like even playing cards with people, critical thinking, who has what, how to make pairs. Bridge is a really good critical thinking game. But I love games like Quirkle, where there's no words, but it's colors and shapes, and you have to sort of think of how to line them up. It kind of looks like a Scrabble board. Or Metaforms, it's another type of game that you can do by yourself. But the game Clue is just another fun game where you have to kind of think who murdered who with the candlestick. So it's trying to figure that out. That's really good critical thinking. So I think I got them all: memory, word skills. Oh, focus. The other one, the fifth one, is focus. Really focusing. Here I'm not focused enough, but focusing on one thing at a time. Because if we're fully multitasking all day long and we're not really focusing on one thing, we're losing that ability to stay focused. And here we are with swipe, 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 swipe in this new world that we're not able to stay as focused as we used to be. So like that game, I don't know if you've seen, where people say, tell me what color it is, but don't read it. Don't read the word green. You have to say if it's written in blue, you have to yell quickly blue. And so it's like flashcards going really, really fast to try to stay focused on what color it is rather than the word itself. So those are just quick ideas.
Amazing. You're a wealth of knowledge. All right, we've got a couple more questions. My dad is 88 with advanced dementia. My mom is 86 and also showing signs of dementia. We have tried to keep them at home. We've tried to keep them at home. However, it's getting too complicated. Thanks to Teen Toast, we found a lovely retirement home. Oh, thanks. And I'm to move them on Monday, although I have no idea how I will get them there. Any ideas on therapeutic reasoning?
I like, compassionate deception. Yeah, either one works. Yes. So I want to say the word trial. Okay. Sometimes we can't say it might be forever, because people get afraid of forever. Yeah. So I love to say, well, why don't we just try it out for a week? Let's just see. We'll keep everything the way it is. We'll go try. If you can incorporate a trial type of experience, so it's not so scary for them, because also keep in mind, it's hard for people to have abstract thinking. So they can't abstract like you can. Like, oh, it's going to be fun. You're going to have friends. You're going to be able to go down for meals. Like, you can sort of see it all. They can't abstract things. So it's pretty scary. So maybe just saying, let's just try it one day at a time, because all they know in this moment is their home, where they've been living, and they're comfortable there. So if you just say, let's just try, or it's a retreat, or it's a vacation, if you don't make it so scary, then they will mingle better, because they think they can go back. Yeah. And it's not, because otherwise what I've seen is people who don't want to leave their home, and the family moved them, and the family are honest with them, because another home had said, don't lie to your mom, it's not right. Whereas I, as a consultant, said, let's just call it a trial, because her furnace needs to be fixed, and we're just going to stay here for or temporary. Sorry, it was the word temporary. We're just here temporary while your furnace is getting fixed. But the home she moved into, she decided to listen to them. And they said, don't do that. You tell her the truth. So it was like, okay, so they did. And the whole time she was there, it was fight, fight, fight. You moved me here. You lied to me, or sorry, no, not you lied to me. Sorry. Call my lawyer. You can't do this to me. I have rights. That kind of thing, and would not settle. It was an emotional memory that was created where she was forced out of her house and stuck there, and she remembered that and kept every day, I hate it here, I want to go back, you forced me. Whereas if they would have said it's just a trial or it's temporary while we get your furnace fixed, then okay, then they get settled in gently, and they do start to meet people, and they do start to come out of their room and go, oh hi, yeah, I'm just here temporarily while my furnace is getting fixed, and that's fine, but then there's no emotional memory of negativity. And then once they get a routine and they do start to, they're getting used to this, they may not want to go back on their own.
Yeah, they start integrating and talking to people and make new friends. Yeah, absolutely.
That's therapeutic reasoning, temporary. I don't know if that will help you, Anna, or not, but it's just one idea. But if I got to know you and your family, I could give you other personalized ideas.
Amanda says that she's a caregiver to her father with vascular dementia. She's looking to getting a will and a POA done for the father. Does your practice help families navigate this, such as looking into lawyers and assessors? I subscribe for your newsletter, and how much do your services cost?
Okay, no worries. So now with the POA and wills,
that's tricky.
Not my domain.
It's tricky too,
it's not
right?
Yeah. Sorry?
I'm saying it's tricky with wills and POAs with someone that has dementia or any cognitive issue.
So all I would refer to families is find a POA or a lawyer or notary. That's the word I was looking for. Notary that is ideal for your situation, whether they're in your community or maybe somebody knows of them. There's a referral, and you can try to go on a day. Don't pick the mornings if they don't have good mornings. Pick or go in the mornings if they are usually better in the mornings. So make an appointment that's a better time of day for them, and then the lawyer or notary will make their choice. They will decide whether or not they can go through with helping you or helping them with creating these important documents. But I know in BC, I don't know about Ontario, but BC, you can do your own healthcare representative forms by downloading them and having the person sign and others witness. So you just have to have witnesses. You don't need to go to a notary or lawyer. You can do that all on your own. So I would suggest that if you can't, because in BC it's different. I'm thinking everyone here might be in Ontario, but in BC they have a section of the healthcare that can also pay bills too. There's a second one. There's the RA7 and RA9, but you can get the RA7 for people with dementia if you can't get a POA signed anymore. A lawyer refuses to do a POA. So I would just encourage you. I would give you ideas on how to get them in, what to say, what to do. I would give you personalized ideas for my services. But how much my services cost? So I try to keep my services really low as much as I can. So normal counselors would be maybe about $150 to $200. I'm at $115 an hour, but we do have packages where families have purchased a 3-hour or a 5-hour, which is a little bit more reduced in those times, and then I become on call for you you're my VIP client. I hope that helps.
I would tell everyone listening, it's well worth that and more. So it's, and also, Amanda, I'm not sure if you're in Ottawa. We do have people from outside of Ontario here, but if you are and you need some recommendations locally, just email me. In response to the email, I'm going to send out everybody afterwards because we're going to send out the recording, and I can maybe help direct that way as well. But all really good information, Karen.
I do help on Zoom as well, or over the phone, or emails or texting. So I don't necessarily, if you're in Ontario, I've helped people across North America for many years, and my team as well. So just know that we still make it work. People still might send me videos of their loved ones, so I can kind of get a sense of how they're talking, how they're walking, what are they doing, and I've been able to give better personalized solutions even from a distance.
Perfect. Is there any testing for Alzheimer's disease for family that has family history of the disease? My grandma and her sister has had Alzheimer's.
Now, I don't know where you are, Joyce, but I'm not quite sure about Ontario right now. There are some things that people have tried, but I do want to give a caution here. It's best to talk to your doctors or their doctors as well of the loved one, your mom. Grandma and her sister. Okay, so there is some things coming down the pipe, but it's not available everywhere in Canada. There are things that people have tried, such as a spinal tap fluid, where they take a little bit of the spinal tap fluid and do a testing to see if how much plaque there is in that spinal tap. So the abundance of plaque can represent Alzheimer's disease but again, there's blood tests that are not fully around yet. There's some blood tests to test the plaque as well. But there is some PET scans that are very sophisticated that can also detect the plaques, and some can detect tangles in the brain. But it's not fully around Canada yet.
Yeah.
So, the other thing I wanted to caution is some people, it's the ethics around wanting to know. Is it something they do want to know and live with every day if it is in the family? But also keep in mind, if there is a chromosome that has been passed down from generations, and then that chromosome was passed down, mom and dad have to give one, they have two chromosomes, they have to give one, and you don't know which one it's going to be. It's 50-50 chance. And then if they have 4 kids, the next one could have not have the affected chromosomes. The next one might have had an affected chromosome. It's just 50-50 chance. And then from there, it goes down the line of that infected chromosome that might be passed down. But again, do people really want to know? Also, consider insurance. If you are looking to get insurance, they may be starting to ask this because they're noticing there's a rise of people being affected by dementia. So insurance plans are starting to catch on to this. And so just be careful with that is all I'm saying. Just do your research of the location where you are.
Yeah, and due diligence on that. That's a really good note on insurance specifically as well, right? So, okay, what do we say to someone who is upset by the diagnosis so they understand it, and family doesn't want to talk about it directly with them because they would rather not think about it? Thank you for the tips.
That's hard, but that person still needs to talk it out. So if they can't talk it with their families or their friends, finding a peer support group might be really beneficial within their community of others that have been diagnosed. If they're not affected by anosognosia, those support groups are amazing.
Yeah.
But also to talk to a counselor, a professional who might be able to work with them. Now, I have talked to the family members. I am going on Friday to meet with a family member locally who has been diagnosed, and I do it on Zoom and whatnot. But I personally feel as though once they're connected to others, even if it's just one other person that they can chat with, it really helps them to not feel alone.
For sure. Our 85-year-old mother has mild Alzheimer's, still living at home. Definitely does not perceive that she is not remembering to take her heart and diabetic medications, and also refuses to continue a home care assistance trial for this. As you referred to in the therapeutic reasoning, how can we address this? She does not accept family or doctor trying to persuade her on this. It's tough.
Mary, okay, there's tough cases, and then there's tough cases that I have to deal with. Now, this, your mother, 85 years old, sounds like a really difficult case. But I just do want to say, as part of my book, the real deep things that I like to teach is that we first need to understand why. Why is she refusing the support? Why? And so I don't know, like for some people, they may be acting this way because they don't want to pay for anything because they're worried about money. If that's the reason, then we treat it differently. If her reason why is definitely she thinks she has nothing wrong with her, or she's trying to prove that she is okay, and that's her motivation, is to prove she's okay, then we get creative to make her. We might have to take time if she's already been developing this sense that nobody believes her and they all think she's not right, she's, quote unquote off her rocker, those types of feelings that they might be feeling. Then we have to work on switching her mindset to go, no, you're fine, I don't know what I was thinking, it's part of therapeutic reasoning. I'm sorry, you're great, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to put you through that, you are awesome. And build that relationship back, because it sounds like maybe there's a relationship challenge going on. So again, I would have to understand her better. I have so many questions I would ask. Tell me more about her personality, what motivates her. Can she hear? Can she read? I want to understand her, because then maybe we can give her a letter. A letter that might persuade her, if it's like an official letter. Like this is, I don't know, like if she was part of the veterans, or a husband or somebody with veterans, there's a veterans letter saying that you've got this free service to use, and if that's her worry, that it's about money, but it's a free service, well, I'm entitled to this as I'm a veteran. So we find creative ways to help this situation, but this one's a tough one. It might take a little bit more time.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's it for questions, Karen. Anybody else have anything else before we close up today? I'll look here for, everyone's saying thank you. Thanks so much for joining us today. Super informative. Lots of thank yous coming into the chat. Really informative. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing all your expertise and helping our folks through some of these trials and tribulations. It's definitely a difficult, it can definitely be difficult situation. So thank you so much, Karen. And
welcome, my pleasure.
Just a reminder, I'm going to send this out as an email, so everybody will get a copy of our webinar today for future need or to share with family and friends. And again, thanks everybody for coming. Thanks again, Karen.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye, everyone.